Your thoughts aren't your own. Let that sink in. Every belief you cling to, every fear you avoid, every decision you think you made, might not have been yours to begin with. From the moment you took your first breath, you entered a game you didn't design, with rules you didn't choose, played on a board you couldn't even see. But the worst part? You were never told you were playing, because the game was built to make you forget. Forget that your mind was once free. Forget that your soul was born unchained. Instead, from day one, they began shaping you. Parents, teachers, politicians, media, all following a script, written by systems so powerful, they've been perfecting control for generations. And here's the chilling truth. You weren't just influenced, you were programmed. They didn't need force. They just needed access to one thing, your subconscious mind. This video isn't entertainment, it's a mirror. And once you look into it, you'll never see your world the same way again. Welcome to your red pill moment. But if the game started at birth, how exactly did they begin programming you? The moment you were born, you began absorbing the world around you, not through logic, not through critical thinking, but through something far more vulnerable, your subconscious mind. From the day you took your first breath, your mind wasn't analyzing. It was recording. And for the first 7 years of your life, you operated mostly in what scientists call the theta brainwave state. It's the same state hypnotists use to bypass conscious resistance and install suggestion, the same state spiritual practitioners use to rewire trauma or shift identity. In that state, you don't question, you don't evaluate, you simply absorb. Like a sponge dropped into water, you soaked in every word, tone, glance, reaction, every behavior pattern, belief and emotional response from the people around you. Parents, teachers, siblings, cartoons, fairy tales, religious stories, the news playing in the background. All of it, line by line, was downloaded into your subconscious, without filter, without permission. They called it learning, but most of it wasn't conscious education. It was unconscious conditioning. Imagine this. A hypnotist walks onto a stage, snaps their fingers, and convinces someone they're a chicken. That person flaps their arms, clucks, pecks the ground, and genuinely believes it. Not because they're weak, not because they're stupid, but because the conscious mind was bypassed. Now imagine that. But instead of a stage, it's your childhood. Instead of a hypnotist, it's your entire environment. And instead of one suggestion, you received thousands. Be quiet. Don't question. Stay in line. Good things come to those who wait. Money is hard to make. Authority is always right. You're too sensitive. You'll never succeed unless you work twice as hard. They weren't just phrases, they were source code -- embedded deep in the operating system of your mind. Modern neuroscience backs this up. Studies show that 90 to 95% of your decisions, habits, emotions, and reactions are governed not by conscious thought, but by the subconscious. Only a tiny sliver, your conscious mind, handles reason, willpower, and logic. The rest? That's autopilot, old patterns, childhood imprints, scripts you didn't write, but still live by. Let's break it down further. Your subconscious isn't just an operating system. It's the invisible architect shaping 95% of your lived reality. And between the ages of 0 and 7, that system was wide open, vulnerable, unprotected, absorbing data 24/7. Every cartoon you watched, every bedtime story, every moment you saw an adult panic about money, shut down in conflict, or betray themselves for approval, became lines of code. That's why people raised in scarcity often struggle with abundance, even when they logically know better. Why those raised in criticism become people pleasers, perfectionists, or self-saboteurs. Why someone told, "You're not good enough," still hears that voice 30 years later. Whispering in job interviews, relationships, dreams, because the subconscious remembers everything. Especially what happened when you were too small to fight back. And here's the heartbreaking truth. None of it was your fault. You didn't choose those beliefs. You didn't ask to be filled with fear, guilt, shame, and self-doubt. You were just a child. Your only job was to survive, so you traded your truth for safety. And to survive meant absorbing the rules of the world around you, even if those rules were broken, even if they were lies. This is why, as an adult, you can read all the self-help books, recite all the affirmations, go to all the workshops, but still feel stuck. Because until you change the code beneath the surface, nothing on top truly shifts. You're not broken, you're not weak. You're just still running software that wasn't written by you. And here's the most chilling part. This programming wasn't random. It was engineered. The next phase of your awakening is to see how governments, corporations, media, and education all worked together. Not to empower your mind, but to shape it. You didn't just grow up in a world. You were groomed to fit into one. Let's go deeper. By now, you understand that your subconscious wasn't built by choice. It was programmed, early, deeply, invisibly. But it didn't stop with you. Because the people who shaped your mind, your parents, your teachers, your caretakers, were also shaped the exact same way. You didn't just inherit their DNA, you inherited their beliefs. Think about it. How many times did you hear these phrases growing up? Be realistic. Don't talk back. Money doesn't grow on trees. Play it safe. That's just the way things are. They sound like advice, but they're really code dash. Lines passed down from one subconscious to another, wrapped in love, fear, and survival. These weren't just habits, they were spells. Cast over your mind before you even knew how to spell your own name. And here's the trap. Your parents weren't trying to limit you. They were trying to protect you. They taught you what they thought was true, because they learned it from their parents, and so on, and so on. It's generational programming. And like software passed down through updates, the system becomes more complex, more rigid, more subtle, until no one even remembers where it began. You weren't just born into a family, you were born into a narrative, one that says, don't aim too high, obey the system, don't make too much noise, don't question authority, stay inside the lines, and the more obedient you were, the more you were praised. Good boy, good girl, good student, good citizen. But good for who? Because when you zoom out, you'll realize something deeper. This isn't just family programming, it's collective conditioning. Let's look at the institutions. Education teaches you to memorize, not question. Religion teaches obedience over direct experience. Culture shames the individual who doesn't conform. Language encodes limitation. We'll explore this soon. And media? It trains your desires, your fears, your identity. It's not random. It's not accidental. It's a self-reinforcing system where every part validates the next. You were taught to believe in things before you could understand them, to adopt values you never consciously chose, to measure yourself by standards you didn't create. This is why people go their entire lives, feeling like something's off, but never knowing what. It's the tension of a soul trying to awaken. Inside a story it didn't write. And here's the real kicker. Most of your decisions today aren't decisions at all. They're reactions, triggered by belief systems installed long before you had a choice. You don't ask for more money at work, because that's greedy. You don't speak your truth, because you'll cause conflict. You settle, because it's selfish to want more. You downplay your gifts, because no one likes a show-off. But whose voice is that, really? Because if you trace it back far enough, you'll realize it's not yours. It was whispered into your ears when you were still forming your sense of self, and it embedded so deeply. You began to believe it was you. And here's what makes this dangerous. When a belief is inherited, we rarely think to question it. It becomes invisible law, a silent framework that defines what's possible, what's safe, what's normal. But here's the good news. Once you see the pattern, you can begin to rewrite it. You are not your parents. You are not your programming. You are the author now, if you choose to be. But here's where the system went from generational to global, because at some point they realized they didn't need to rely on family or school alone. A new tool emerged, more powerful, more persuasive, more precise, media and algorithms, and that's when the programming became industrial. Let's take a look inside. You weren't just programmed in childhood. That was only the foundation. Because now, in the modern world, the control has evolved, become more subtle, more constant, more invisible. Today, your subconscious is not just influenced once in a while. It's under continuous assault. Let's break this down. Every time you check your phone, you're exposed to microscripts. Headlines, images, soundbites, alerts, ads, all designed with one objective: hijack your attention, trigger an emotion, sell you a solution. This isn't marketing. It's behavioral manipulation at scale. Think about it. You're scrolling on a Monday night. A headline pops up: breaking economic collapse imminent. You tense up. Fear kicks in. 2 seconds later, an ad appears: invest in gold now to protect your future. You just got played. Fear greater than hijack, greater than sell. Your emotional state was hacked. And you didn't even notice. This is called precision-engineered persuasion, and it happens hundreds of times a day. But it's not just fear. They use pleasure too. Dopamine is the brain's reward chemical. It's what lights up when you eat, win, laugh, or scroll. And tech companies know this. That's why your feed is infinite. That's why your screen lights up with red dots. That's why every app has a slot machine mechanic. You never know what you'll get, so you keep scrolling, hoping the next hit of dopamine will be the one. It's called a dopamine loop. And it's designed to keep your brain hungry, distracted, and addicted. But there's something even darker. These systems don't just react to you. They learn you. Every click, every pause, every scroll. They build a psychographic profile of who you are. And over time, they don't just predict your behavior. They begin to shape it. They learn what makes you insecure, what triggers your FOMO, what products you linger on, what opinions you'll agree with. Then they feed you more of what you already believe, creating an echo chamber where you're not being educated, you're being conditioned. You think you're browsing, but really, you're being programmed in real time. Let's take a look at just one tool in their arsenal: notifications. You think it's harmless, just a ding. But in neuropsychology, it's known as a variable ratio reinforcement trigger. Translation: it's the same system casinos use to keep gamblers hooked. Every time your phone pings, your brain lights up. You interrupt your focus, you rewire your attention span, and most importantly, you reinforce the habit of reacting. You're no longer the creator of your moment. You're just responding. And over time, this micro-control becomes macro-impact. Because if they can control what you notice, they can control what you believe. And if they control what you believe, they control how you act. This is no longer about products. This is about your identity. Because here's the truth. When they control your attention, they control your identity. Who you think you are, what you think you want, what you believe is possible. It's all being shaped by an invisible feedback loop, engineered to serve them, not you. You don't even realize it's happening, because it feels like you're making choices, but most of the time you're just responding to suggestions. Packaged so well, they feel like your own thoughts. This is manipulation as a service, and the price you pay isn't just money. It's you, your attention, your beliefs, your internal compass. But there's more. Because after they take your attention, they sell you a version of yourself, one that keeps you chasing, buying, scrolling, conforming. Let's explore how they don't just manipulate your desires, they manufacture your identity. Look around. The world isn't selling you products anymore. It's selling you versions of yourself. A cooler you, a smarter you, a richer, trendier, more optimized version of you. And every scroll, every ad, every influencer post you see isn't just offering a solution. It's offering you a new identity to chase. But here's the twist. It was never really you to begin with. Think about it. You don't buy sneakers. You buy the image of the confident, successful person who wears them. You don't watch a show. You binge a lifestyle, a mood, a persona. You don't subscribe to a platform. You subscribe to a culture, a tribe, a narrative of who you are and who you should become. And the algorithm, it doesn't just follow you. It leads you. It watches what you linger on, what content makes you stop, what music loops you into nostalgia, what aesthetic sparks desire. Then it builds a psychological profile of your aspirational identity. And once it has that, it feeds it back to you, over and over, until you begin to believe that's who you are, until your sense of self becomes a carefully curated mirror of content you didn't create, but consumed. This is what psychologists now call the consumer self. It's a fragmented identity, constructed not from values or vision, but from products, trends, and marketable personalities. It's the reason people feel empty after hours of scrolling. It's why self-worth gets tied to outfits, follow accounts, and what's next. Because your identity was quietly outsourced to companies that profit when you feel like you're never enough. Let's take streaming as an example. Autoplay isn't just about convenience, it's about momentum. Because when something else starts without your permission, your choice shrinks. And over time, your agency erodes. You're no longer choosing what you watch. You're receiving it, passively. You begin to adopt moods, beliefs, and even language, based on the characters and content you absorb, all without realizing you're being shaped. It's identity theft, but the thief doesn't take your credit card. They take your clarity. Then there's social media. Every scroll reinforces the belief that you need to become something more. But that more is always just slightly out of reach. The right filter, the perfect routine, the trending mindset. So you buy another product, read another book, follow another account, thinking you're evolving. But what you're really doing is chasing a hologram of someone else's life, stitched together by algorithms trained to predict your insecurities. here's the danger. When your sense of self is built by what you consume, you become a product of what consumes you. You no longer ask, "Who am I really?" Instead, you ask, "What version of me do they want next?" That's how identity gets hijacked. And when your identity is hijacked, so is your future. Because your vision of who you could become has been quietly swapped out for a blueprint that fits their agenda, not your truth. But this isn't irreversible. You can reclaim your sense of self, not by deleting everything, but by pausing, asking, "Is this me, or is this who I've been sold?" Because the first step to freedom is recognizing the mask wasn't yours to begin with, and the second step is removing it. But this isn't just about your identity anymore. This is about something far more precious, your future and your freedom. And if you're ready to reclaim that, then we need to talk about the system that traps your time, your energy, and your potential under the lie of security. Let's talk about work. Let's talk about debt. Let's talk about the greatest illusion of them all, the retirement dream. You've probably heard it all your life. Work hard, save your money, live below your means. And one day, just maybe, you'll retire comfortably and finally live your life. But here's the truth. That dream, it was never meant for you. It's called the 40-40-40 trap. Work 40 hours a week for 40 years to retire on 40% of what was barely enough to live on in the first place. Let that sink in. You trade the best years of your life, your energy, your time, your freedom, for a reward that may never come. And what's waiting at the finish line? Debt, inflation, declining health, a pension that's not guaranteed, and a future you can barely recognize, let alone control. You sacrifice today for a tomorrow that isn't even real. The system tells you to delay joy, delay travel, delay rest, because it'll all be worth it. But what if it won't? What if the system was built not to free you, but to keep you working just long enough, to feed it before it discards you? Look at the numbers. Millions of people work 40+ hours a week and still struggle to pay rent, buy food, or afford healthcare. Meanwhile, the cost of living climbs, retirement funds shrink, and companies cut benefits faster than ever. And when you finally make it to retirement, you're older, your body aches, your time is limited, and you might not have the health or energy left to enjoy the life you postponed. It's not just cruel, it's engineered. They sell you a system designed to consume your prime. In exchange for a distant promise, they can revoke at any moment, and most people never even question it. Why? Because they're buried in debt. Student loans, mortgages, credit cards, medical bills. And here's the brutal truth. Debt isn't just financial, it's psychological slavery. The more debt you carry, the more obedient you become. You can't risk quitting the job you hate. You can't afford to speak your truth. You can't explore your calling, because that monthly payment is always chasing you. And the spiritual cost, even greater. Every unpaid bill occupies space in your mind. Every forced sacrifice chips away at your soul. You weren't born to work, pay bills, and die. You were born to create, to explore, to live. But the system doesn't profit from your freedom. It profits from your submission. That's why it starts early. Student debt offered like candy at 18. Mortgages signed before you understand compound interest. Credit cards marketed as convenience, while interest piles up in silence. Each step binds you deeper, until your entire life becomes collateral for a dream that isn't even yours. And here's what makes it even worse. While you trade your time for money, the ultra-wealthy trade money for time. They buy freedom while you lease survival. If hard work were the path to riches, the janitors, the nurses, the construction workers would all be millionaires. But they're not, because the game is rigged. You were told the ladder leads to freedom, but it was really a treadmill, and the harder you run, the more the system applauds, while keeping the exit just out of reach. So let's break the lie once and for all. Living below your means isn't wisdom. It's fear in disguise. You don't build wealth by playing it safe forever. You build it by reclaiming control, by questioning what you were taught, by designing your own model of success. True wealth isn't in your savings account. It's in your ability to wake up and say, I choose what to do with my time today. That's freedom. That's power. And no system wants you to know that. Because if you did, you might stop playing their game altogether. And if you think that's bad, wait until you realize what language itself is doing to you. Let's go deeper, because the next layer of control is hidden in the very words you speak. If you wanted to control someone, without force, without laws, without surveillance, what would you use? Words. Because when you control someone's language, you control their thoughts, their boundaries, their identity. Language is magic, not poetic magic, literal magic. It's programming for the human mind. That's why it's called spelling. You cast spells with spelling. You form sentences to create structure. You sign contracts, agree to terms, live within definitions. We don't just describe the world with words, we create it. Take a look at some of the words you use every day. Mortgage, from the Latin mort, death, and gage, pledge. It literally means death pledge. A lifetime of work exchanged for bricks and walls. Etymologically, government stems from roots, meaning to govern the mind, a reminder of how language often hides plain truths. Government means mind control. Again, this isn't theory, it's etymology. Authority, the power to author. Those in authority don't just lead, they write the story of what is considered real, valid, and true, and it doesn't stop with these obvious examples. Let's talk about your daily language. Phrases like, I have to go to work. I can't afford that. I'm under a lot of pressure. I guess I don't have a choice. They sound normal, harmless, even honest. But every time you say, I have to, you give away your power of choice. Every time you say, I can't, you shut down possibility. You're not describing your life. You're reinforcing a prison built from words. Modern psychology, especially neuro-linguistic programming, NLP, understands how language bypasses logic and speaks straight to your subconscious. They call them embedded commands, suggestions hidden inside everyday statements that slide under the radar of your conscious mind. For example, after you finish this video, you'll begin to see your life differently. It sounds like a soft prediction, but the subconscious hears a direct command. You'll begin to see your life differently. These structures are everywhere, in ads, in political speeches, in therapy, and yes, social media captions. Here's the scary part. When you repeat these same patterns to yourself, you become your own captor. The system no longer needs to program you. You do it to yourself. With language you inherited from authority, with phrases passed down like family recipes, but filled with limitation, fear, and self-doubt. And the most dangerous language of all, the kind that ends conversations, it is what it is. Let's agree to disagree. That's just the way things are. These aren't conclusions. They're linguistic fences, designed to end inquiry, before it begins. But here's the truth. Words carry vibration. Every syllable has a frequency, and that frequency interacts with your biology. That's not spiritual fluff, that's science. Your words affect your nervous system, your posture, your hormones. Positive words stimulate healing. Negative ones trigger stress. Ancient cultures knew this. They used mantras, chants, invocation. Not because they were poetic, but because sound shifts reality. And modern systems, they use this same truth to script division, fear, obedience. So here's the question. Are the words you use opening doors or closing them? Are you casting spells that expand your world or shrink it? Because if words are spells, then what you say is what you send out. What you repeat is what you reinforce. And what you name becomes your reality. But if words are the spells, then frequency is the wand. Let's go deeper into how they use vibration itself to cloud your mind, distort your field, and keep your spirit asleep. If words are the spells, then frequency is the wand, because behind every word, sound, or experience is vibration, and vibration is the language your body, brain, and spirit understand best. But what happens when those vibrations are manipulated? Let's start with music. In 1939, a new standard was adopted globally. All music would be tuned to 440 Hertz. Before that, the standard was 432 Hertz. A frequency many believe to be aligned with the Earth's natural rhythm, the Schumann resonance, and even the golden ratio. In cymatic experiments, where sound frequencies are visualized in matter, 432 Hertz produces beautifully symmetrical, balanced patterns. But 440 Hertz creates distorted, fragmented shapes. 432 Hertz equals harmony, 440 Hertz è tensione. And while 8 Hertz may seem small, your nervous system, your cells, your emotional state, they feel the difference. That's not just music. That's programming. But music is just one layer. You're surrounded 24/7 by artificial frequencies. You're surrounded 24/7 by artificial signals, Wi-Fi, smart meters, LED flickers, each subtly disrupting your natural frequency. These are not harmless. They subtly disrupt your biology. Sleep issues, brain fog, anxiety, hormonal imbalances, even emotional numbness. You're not broken, you're just disconnected from your natural frequency. This is what some call the frequency fence. An invisible web of artificial signals. That keeps you vibrating out of sync with your highest self. And when your inner rhythms are out of tune, you become easier to distract, to trigger, to control. You can't concentrate. You can't rest. You can't feel grounded. So what do? You consume more. You scroll more. You search for stimulation in the very system that caused the disconnection in the first place. But here's the truth. Your original frequency is still inside you, waiting, unchanged, untouchable, and you can tune back in. Step 1. Grounding. Walk barefoot on grass, sand, soil. Let the earth reset your electric field. This isn't just spiritual, it's measurable. Inflammation drops, cortisol stabilizes, clarity returns. Grounding reconnects your biology to the planetary network. Step 2. Nature exposure. Sunlight realigns your circadian rhythm. The sound of wind, water, and birds restores inner harmony. Even 20 minutes in nature lowers stress hormones and boosts immune response. You don't need a forest, just disconnection from noise and connection to life. Step 3. 432 Hertz sound. Play it in the background while you work, meditate, or sleep. It shifts your internal state back toward balance. It dissolves the nervous tension modern life builds. Step 4. Digital detox. Silence the notifications. Turn off Wi-Fi at night. Take 1 day a week off from screens. Replace noise with intentional silence. It's not about escape. It's about recalibration, because every frequency you expose yourself to is either aligning you or distorting you, and the system is built to keep you out of tune with yourself. Why? Because when you're out of tune, you're easier to direct. So here's your reminder: you are vibration. And when you reclaim your frequency, you reclaim your power. But there's one more twist. They're not just reacting to you, they're predicting you. Let's go deeper into the world of behavior prediction, where every scroll, click, and pause feeds a system that tries to define you. Before you even define yourself, by now you know your behavior is being monitored. Every click, every pause, every scroll. But that's just the beginning. Because the system isn't just watching you, it's learning, anticipating, predicting. Let's talk about what that really means. You walk into a store, swipe your loyalty card, and that data point gets added to your digital profile. You search for hiking boots, and suddenly your feed is filled with camping gear, protein snacks, and outdoor adventures. You hesitate for 2 seconds on an ad about working from home. And now you're targeted with entrepreneurial content, time-tracking apps, and be your own boss courses. But it's not coincidence. It's not random. It's predictive. AI, artificial intelligence trained to understand what you're most likely to do next. And once it knows that, it stops waiting for your decisions and starts shaping them. Let's break this down. These systems run on what's called behavioral feedback loops. Step 1, you behave. Step 2, the system observes. Step 3, it adapts and responds. Step 4, you behave again based on that adaptation, and the cycle continues. Each time, the algorithm gets smarter. Each time, your behavior gets more predictable. And eventually, you're no longer making conscious choices. You're just reacting to a digital environment that was custom built to control your path. Ever wonder why flight prices skyrocket the second time you search? Or why ads seem to know you're feeling sad and hit you with comfort food or motivational quotes? That's not magic. That's manipulation. Price manipulation algorithms detect urgency and raise prices when they sense desperation. Emotion-based targeting monitors tone, pace, and even facial expressions, if your camera permissions are on, to identify your current emotional state and sell you the feeling you're missing. Let's talk about dynamic environments. Streaming services tweak thumbnails and descriptions based on your mood, past choices, even time of day. An image of a smiling woman for you, a dramatic landscape for someone else. Same show, different psychological bait. You're not picking based on preference. You're picking based on presentation, which was tailored to influence your subconscious. And then there's language modeling. Algorithms are now trained to use persuasive phrasing based on your browsing patterns. Your ad might say, "You deserve better. Start today." Someone else might see, "The clock is ticking. Don't miss this." These aren't just taglines, they're scripts written specifically to press your emotional buttons. This is digital puppetry, and you're not the one holding the strings. The worst part, you often think these decisions are your own. You think you're craving pizza. You think you're interested in that course. You think you're curious about that investment. But in reality, the thought was planted hours, sometimes days, before, repeated subtly, reinforced algorithmically, delivered with just enough personal flair that you never question where the desire came from. So let's call it what it is. You're not choosing, you're being nudged, sculpted, played, and every nudge, every ad, every recommendation is less about serving you and more about serving the system. Because when your behavior is predictable, your buying habits are reliable. And when your reactions are consistent, your attention becomes a guaranteed asset. But here's the cruel irony. After all this manipulation, after all this control, they still tell you you need to improve yourself. Let that sink in. The system hijacks your thoughts, feeds you limiting beliefs, keeps you in loops of fear and distraction, and then tells you you're not good enough. But here's a product, a course, a guru to fix that. That's not empowerment, that's gaslighting. And it leads us into the next layer of control, the illusion of self-improvement. Because what if the most toxic manipulation of all is convincing you that you're broken and need to be fixed? Let's go there. After all the algorithms, the ads, the fear headlines, the constant nudges, you'd think the system would be satisfied. But it's not. Because the final trick they use is the most subtle, the most effective, the most toxic of all. It's your fault. You need to fix yourself. That one sentence keeps millions of people running in circles for life. You feel tired? You must not be productive enough. You feel stuck? You haven't healed enough. You feel anxious? You need a new habit, a new journal, a better morning routine. And what do they offer? Books, courses, coaches, webinars, apps, checklists, timelines, planners. The self-help machine runs 24/7, telling you you're one breakthrough away from finally becoming enough. But let me tell you something radical. Fix yourself is not empowerment. It's a trap. It's an elegant, invisible form of control because it turns your pain into a personal flaw instead of a systemic result. The system conditions you, distracts you, burns you out, then sells you the solution for the exact symptoms it caused. And worst of all, you believe it. You believe that if you just tried harder, woke up earlier, focused longer, planned better, you'd finally be worthy of peace, finally be confident, finally feel like you belong. But here's the truth. You don't need to fix yourself. You need to unlearn the lie that you were ever broken. This is where we bring in a new lens, one that comes not from capitalism or marketing psychology, but from spiritual science, from thinkers like Dr. Ernest Holmes, who didn't ask people to become better. He asked them to remember who they already are. Holmes taught, "You are a unique expression of the infinite mind. The power you seek is already within you." He wasn't interested in helping you hustle. He was interested in helping you align. Because once you're aligned with your inner truth, you stop trying to earn worthiness and start living from it. Let's talk about identity design, because this is where the real shift happens. Self-improvement asks, how can I fix what's wrong? Identity design asks, what kind of person do I want to become intentionally? It's not about patches, it's about blueprint. It's not about hustle, it's about who you choose to be. And this choice doesn't come from a to-do list. It comes from your deepest truth, the version of you that's bold, clear, authentic. Not because it's polished, but because it's aligned. So ask yourself, what would I create if I wasn't trying to prove I'm good enough? What would I chase If I wasn't trying to outrun a flaw, who would I be if I truly believed I was already whole? Most people never ask these questions because the system has taught them that they are forever unfinished, that they must endlessly strive, hustle, optimize, but never arrive. Why? Because someone who believes they are complete doesn't buy as much. Someone who isn't afraid of being left behind, isn't easily manipulated. Someone who feels clear on who they are is impossible to control. In a world that profits from your confusion, the most radical act is to know yourself and stand in it unapologetically. To stop playing the endless game of leveling up and start choosing from presence, not pressure. You don't need to chase the next step. You need to reclaim the pen and write a new version of you on your terms. This isn't about perfection. It's about permission. Permission to feel whole, to slow down, to create from peace, not panic, to lead from truth, not trauma, to say, this is who I choose to be, and that's enough. That's the shift. From self-improvement to self-creation. You are not a glitch. You are not broken code. You are the programmer, the architect, the author. And when you stop trying to get fixed and start designing your inner world with intention, the outer world begins to align. And here's the magic. When you remember who you are, the cage begins to crack. Not because someone rescued you, but because you finally realized you were never truly trapped. You were just asleep in someone else's dream. But now you're awake, and it's time to step into the final truth. The one they fear you'll remember. You were never broken. You were never small. You were never powerless. You were just unaware of your own potential. Let's change that. Let's finish what we started. Let's break the spell. Wake up sequence. Break the spell. You were never broken. You don't need to be fixed. What you need is to wake up, to see the code, to question the script, to feel the system around you. Not as life itself, but as a prison of perception. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. You begin to realize your thoughts were programmed, your emotions were guided, your identity was assembled, piece by piece, by people, platforms and paradigms that had everything to gain from your disempowerment. But now you've remembered. The spell is only powerful if you don't know you're under it. And you've just opened your eyes. So here's your first act of liberation. Type "Now I see" in the comments. If you've started to recognize the invisible chains, let's show the world how many of us are no longer asleep. Not everyone will understand. Not everyone is ready. But you are, and your awareness will ripple outward into your choices, your relationships, your sense of who you are and what you're here to do. Because this isn't just a video, it's a mirror. And when you look into it deeply enough, you don't just see the illusion. You see the architect. You see you. But this journey doesn't stop here. In fact, this is only the beginning. Because what if I told you there's a frequency pulsing right now through your phone, your TV, your laptop, designed to keep your soul in a state of permanent sleep? What if you could learn how to shield yourself from it, and even use sound to unlock the parts of you they've worked so hard to suppress? In the next video, we go deeper than ever before.